Part 1. Vernier's Account. In Vernier's account, Lord Verniers witnesses the arrival of Vaelin Al Sorna, the infamous Hope Killer, who is escorted by Imperial guards to a ship bound for the islands. Vaelin is calm and respectful despite his chains, and Vernier notes the stark difference between his legendary reputation and his composed demeanor. Former Governor Aruin greets Vaelin, expressing gratitude for sparing his family and presenting him with his old sword and a ruby. On board, tensions rise between Verniers and the ship's Meldonian captain, while Vaelin offers to help with rowing and settles in without complaint. During their voyage, orcas appear, revered by the Meldonians as sacred. Vaelin and Vernier converse, revealing that King Janus's invasion sought only control of coastal ports, not the entire empire, challenging Vernier's historical narrative. Vaelin implies Janus trusted him deeply, hinting at secrets and a legacy he once recorded. Verniers, both intrigued and resentful, agrees to hear Vaelin's story. In Chapter 1, 10-year-old Vaelin Al Sorna is taken by his father to the house of the Sixth Order. At the gate, he is introduced to Aspect Gainal, who tells him he must choose to enter of his own will. Vaelin accepts, though abandoned by his father. Inside, he meets Master Solus, a harsh trainer, and is placed with other boys, Norta, Barcus, Dentos, Canis, and Genus. The boys endure cane strikes, chores, and weapons drills, learning the Order's creed that they have no family but the Order. Master Grueling, keeper of the vaults, provides them with supplies and warns of the life ahead. Vaelin surprises Solus by parrying one of his attacks, earning wary respect. At dinner, the boys discuss food, training, and wars, beginning to form bonds. The day ends with more practice and chores. Alone in bed, Vaelin seethes with hatred toward his father, but finds brief comfort when he hears his dead mother's voice. In Chapter 2, a year into his training with the Sixth Order, Vaelin faces the grueling test of the Run, where boys are left in the Earlish forest to find their way back alone. During his journey, Vaelin encounters a wolf, later discovering assassins hunting him. He kills one attacker, but is haunted by the act. That night, he finds two more assassins who have murdered his friend Michael, and witnesses the wolf kill them. Vaelin buries Michael's remains and returns to the Order house, reporting the incident to Master Solus. Solus covers up the assassination, blaming a bear, and warns Vaelin to tell no one. Vaelin lies to his friends, claiming Michael died from a bear attack. Suspicion grows when Canis reveals he found the bodies, but he remains silent. The chapter ends with Michael's funeral pyre, deepening Vaelin's resolve for vengeance, his bond with his brothers, and foreshadowing darker mysteries within the Order. In Chapter 3, Vaelin and his fellow brothers grow hardened as winter deepens and they prepare for the deadly test of the wild. Vaelin rejects the Aspect's offer to skip the trial, believing it would dishonor him and his brothers. Alone in the wilderness, he builds shelter, hunts, and survives harsh storms. He rescues a man, Erlin, and a mute girl, Sella, fugitives, hunted by the Fourth Order. Learning they are Deniers, Vaelin chooses to help them, masking their scent and misleading their pursuers. He kills two Valerian slave hounds, accidentally earning the loyalty of one, naming it Scratch. Suspicious of Tenders and Mackerel, he hides the fugitive's location. Mackerel later visits and drunkenly recounts Sella's escape from the Blackhold, revealing her dangerous gift. Vaelin passes the trial, refuses his father's request to leave the Order, and bonds with Scratch. As more boys return, they mourn Janus's death, and Vaelin begins questioning the Order's morality while hardening his resolve. In Chapter 4, spring training intensifies, and the boys prepare for the upcoming test of knowledge under Master Grueling. Canis and Dentos fight over Dentos' struggles with the material, leading Vaelin to step in and push them to work together. Determined not to lose another brother, the group tutors Dentos nightly, with each boy taking on different teaching roles, gradually improving his knowledge. As the test approaches, tension builds. During Vaelin's examination, three aspects, Lara Almenda, Dendrish Hendril, and Corlin Alcentis, probe his past, morals, and loyalty. They reveal his mother was once a Fifth Order healer and confront him about killing an assassin and aiding Sella. Vaelin answers truthfully but cautiously, passing the test while feeling threatened. All his friends pass, though the experience leaves them shaken. 6 other boys fail and are expelled, their sobs echoing through the courtyard. The group reflects on survival, loyalty, and their future, with Norta quietly yearning to go home. In Chapter 5, Master Solus takes Vaelin and his brothers to the forge, where Master Jestin teaches them to craft their own swords. Over 2 weeks, they endure grueling labor, pumping bellows, hammering, grinding, and polishing, until each boy finishes a personal blade made with rare star silver. Justin shows respect for Barkis's skill, offering him a future at the forge. That night, Barkis confides in Vaelin, revealing his secret talent. He can instinctively forge perfect weapons without lighting the forge, a gift his father feared as dark. Barkis recounts making a flawless knife at 10 and a sun vane that tracked the sun even underground, which led his father to send him to the Sixth Order for safety. Barkis believes Master Justin sensed his power, just as he sensed something similar in the smith. Their bond deepens, and Barkis's story highlights the danger of his gift and the shadow over his past. In Chapter 6, Vaelin and Norta are punished by being kept from the Summertide Fair. When the others leave, Vaelin learns from Master Jecklin that Norta's father, the king's first minister, is to be executed for treason. Suspecting Norta will try to intervene, Vaelin searches his room, finds a rope escape, and races to Varenshold. At the fair, Vaelin meets Frentis, a street thief, and trades knives for help finding the gallows. After spotting Erlin in the crowd, he hears fighting and discovers Norta attacking soldiers to save his father. Vaelin incapacitates Norta to protect him, and they are surrounded by Blackhawks. Prince Malseus intervenes, ordering their release and delaying the execution. Back at the Order, Norta is sedated and recovers, devastated by his father's death. Vaelin comforts him while their bonds deepen. Later, Vaelin waits to train Frentis, who doesn't appear, and talks with Canis, revealing their contrasting views on war and glory. Part 2. Vernier's Account. In Vernier's account, Verniers continues interviewing Vaelin Al Sorna, who discusses superstition and weapons, emphasizing that swords have no magic, only men kill. Their conversation shifts to the dark, which Verniers calls magic, and Vaelin dismisses as superstition, but admits the world has many mysteries. He shares a grim tale, The Witch's Bastard, about a witch who uses the dark to manipulate villagers, bears a son infused with her power and blood, and curses the village. Years later, the boy destroys it with storms, floods, and ice, becoming a legendary figure of terror. Vaelin suggests myths hold truths and encourages Verniers to investigate further, but Verniers dismisses folklore as outside his field, later regretting this choice. The account highlights Vaelin's perspective on power, myths, and fear surrounding the dark, while deepening Verniers' intrigue about Vaelin's story. Vaelin ends by offering to recount his first meeting with King Janus, setting up the next part of the narrative. In Chapter 1, Master Rensiel begins training Vaelin and his brothers in horsemanship and mounted combat, pairing each with a stallion. Vaelin bonds with his unruly horse, Spit, while Norta excels at riding and archery, reluctantly teaching Vaelin to improve his skills. Norta's focus on fighting as a distraction from grief deepens their bond. Later, Vaelin is summoned by the Aspect and shocked to see Frentis, the street boy, who helped him at the fair, requesting entry into the Order. After learning Frentis is marked for death by a crime lord, Vaelin vouches for him, securing his acceptance. Frentis becomes part of their group temporarily, impressing the masters with his knife skills, fearlessness with scratch, and eagerness to learn. Over months, he thrives under their guidance, especially Norta's patient teaching, before moving to his own group. Vaelin reassures him of their continued support, cementing a strong brotherly bond. Frentis' arrival revitalizes the group's morale. In Chapter 2, the boys face the test of the melee, where they are divided into two groups to fight for a lance under the master's watch. Vaelin unexpectedly takes command of his group, rallying them into a direct charge that breaks through the defenders. The battle is brutal, leaving many injured, but Norta captures the lance, securing their victory. Afterward, Vaelin meets Tower Lord Vanos Almerna, his Seorda companion, Hera Drekel, and Almerna's daughter, Dorena. Hera criticizes the Order's treatment of its trainees, calling them worse than dogs, while Dorena shows concern for Norta's injuries. Later, during guard duty, Canis explains Almerna's past. Once Battle Lord, he was banished for questioning King Janus, but regained favor after defeating barbarians in the north. Dorena, a Lonak foundling, was raised by Almerna, and Hera is a rare Seorda visitor. Vaelin suspects Almerna's visit has deeper meaning, possibly tied to his father and realm politics. In Chapter 3, two boys are expelled after the test of the melee. While Vaelin's group recovers from their injuries, Barkis left with a deep scar. Training intensifies, focusing on advanced sword work. poleaxe drills, and close order marching. During a riding session, Vaelin is thrown from his horse and meets a curious 10-year-old girl, Alornis, and her mother, Hilla Justil. Their conversation reveals Alornis is nearly 11, and Vaelin realizes she is his half-sister, proof of his father's infidelity and the reason he was given to the Order. The revelation leaves Vaelin emotionally numb, and he distances himself, speaking little. Time passes into spring, and Frentis thrives in the Order, growing rapidly and earning praise for his discipline and intelligence. Vaelin reflects bitterly on his father's actions, questioning his motives and loyalty, while Canis defends his father, suggesting regret or politics drove his decisions. Vaelin remains haunted by Alornis' words and the truth about his family. In Chapter 4, Vaelin chooses to spend the summer exchange week with the Fifth Order to seek answers about his family. At the healing house, he meets Aspect Alera, who refuses to explain his past but confirms his mother once trained there. Vaelin works closely with Sister Sharon, assisting in patient care and learning basic healing skills, while Gallus the Climber, a wounded thief he helps save, later escapes custody. Over time, Sharon warms slightly to him, though she remains guarded. On his last night, Sister Henna attempts to seduce him but reveals herself as an assassin, poisoning him before killing herself. Realizing the Aspect is targeted, Vaelin fights through the poison's effects, killing multiple assassins and saving her life. Severely weakened, he is taken for treatment, where Sharon injects him with dangerous Joffrel root to counteract the poison. Through unbearable pain, Vaelin clings to his mother's name, Ildera Vardrian, which becomes his anchor, ultimately saving his life. In Chapter 5, Vaelin recovers from his poisoning and dreams of Sister Sharon comforting him. Upon waking, Master Solace questions him about the assassins, revealing that multiple aspects were attacked, with 2 killed and others wounded. Vaelin's brothers visit, sharing news that Brother Canis killed an assassin, Norta was expelled from the Second Order for misconduct, and the attacks appear coordinated. Sharon remains distant, though Vaelin thanks her for saving him. Later, in the Fifth Order's gardens, Aspect Alera explains that Sharon is as vital to her order as Vaelin is to his. When Vaelin asks about his sister, Alera reveals that his mother, Ildera Vardrian, placed him in the Sixth Order to protect him from the king's plans, convincing his father to honor her dying wish. Alera recounts delivering him at birth and emphasizes his mother's deep love and hopes for him. Vaelin leaves the Fifth Order days later, Sharon already dispatched on a mission, and will not see her for years. In Chapter 6, Vaelin recovers from his poisoning and returns to the Sixth Order, greeted warmly by his brothers, especially Frentis. Visiting Canis, Vaelin learns of the legend of a secret Seventh Order, once part of the Faith, that practiced the dark and was thought destroyed centuries ago, though stories suggest it survived in secret. Canis admits he already shared this suspicion with the Masters, who likely knew. Vaelin is unsettled, realizing the assassinations may be linked to this hidden order. Training resumes, and Vaelin narrowly passes the test of the horse, while Norta excels. The Summer of Fire, marked by riots and unrest, eventually calms. Later, Vaelin and Canis accompany Aspect Arlen to a conclave to select new aspects. Mistress Lisa Ilnian impresses with her composure, while Brother Tendris Alforn shocks the assembly by accusing the faith of weakness and over-reliance on the crown, calling for reform. His blunt words cause uproar, marking a historic moment in the faith. In Chapter 7, the brothers pass the test of the bow, but Vaelin and Norta skip the Summertide Fair to avoid danger, spending a quiet night hunting and camping. Norta confides that his father sent him to the Order to rival Vaelin's father's devotion, sacrificing his own son for ambition. Training intensifies for the upcoming test of the sword, and Frentis departs for his test of the wild. Days later, he fails to return, and signs point to his kidnapping by One Eye, a vengeful outlaw Frentis once maimed. Vaelin leads a rescue mission with his brothers and Scratch, tracking the kidnappers to a tavern and hidden tunnels beneath the city. They discover an ancient faith temple marked with 7 emblems, evidence of the Seventh Order's existence, and a gruesome chamber of ritual killings. They find Frentis tortured by One Eye, who uses dark powers, but Canis kills him, revealing his magic was false fire. Frentis, traumatized, repeatedly stabs One Eye's body. In Chapter 8, Vaelin and his brothers bring a tortured and unconscious Frentis to the House of the Fifth Order, where Master Harren treats his injuries and Aspect Alera assures them he will recover. Vaelin and Canis recount their battle with One Eye, revealing his use of blood-fueled dark magic and illusions. Master Solace orders secrecy and investigates the underground chambers himself, while the boys return to training. Frentis recovers but becomes more withdrawn, prone to anger and fights, keeping silent about his ordeal. Vaelin notices him tracing the scars carved into his skin as if trying to understand them. Later, Frentis confides that One Eye spoke of the One Who Waits, claiming it would destroy their order, but he hasn't told anyone else. Vaelin advises him to keep it secret, dismissing it as madness, though he feels a deep unease. Both brothers carry guilt and unease over the incident as spring approaches and the test of the sword nears. In Chapter 9, Vaelin and his brothers face the test of the sword, where they must fight criminals to the death before a cheering crowd. Vaelin kills 2 men quickly but senses the last opponent, a skilled swordsman, is innocent. Despite his hesitation, he kills the man, who dies, whispering about his wife. Afterward, Vaelin drinks with his surviving brothers but grows angry at Master Solace for dismissing his concerns, confirming the man was condemned but offering no explanation. Leaving the tavern, Vaelin meets Erlin, who reveals the man's name was Urlian Geral, a former Sixth Order brother turned boat builder. Urlian and his wife Ilia, a quester, were framed by a magistrate and 2 nobles seeking profit from wagers on Vaelin's fight. Ilia is now imprisoned in the Black Hold, facing execution. Erlin urges Vaelin to use his influence to help her. Determined to act, Vaelin vows to intervene and requests the names of those responsible. In Chapter 10, Vaelin seeks King Janus' help after killing Urlian, an innocent man forced into the test of the sword. Gaining access to the palace through Captain Smolin, Vaelin confesses the truth, naming Urlian's accusers. The king agrees to execute the guilty nobles, but says Urlian's wife, a trainee, faces death under aspect tendris. Vaelin bargains his service in exchange for her freedom, and the king accepts, ordering her release and exile. Janus reveals plans for Vaelin to join a mission to the Martiche forest alongside Lyndon Alhestian, intending for the arrogant noble to die in battle, and hints at larger plans for Vaelin's future. Leaving the audience, Vaelin is intercepted by Princess Lerna, who charms him, reveals their past betrothal, and tempts him to leave the order to serve her ambitions. Vaelin declines, but senses danger in her intentions. He departs unsettled, realizing he's now deeply entangled in the king's schemes. Part 3. Vernier's Account. In Vernier's account, the historian Verniers continues recording Vaelin Al Sorna's story aboard the ship, filling scrolls as Vaelin recounts his past. Vaelin speaks of Princess Lerna, dismissing her supposed kindness as ambition and power-seeking, though Vernier remains intrigued by her. Inspired by Vaelin's tale, Vernier feels compelled to write a richer history of the unified realm, impressed by its depth beyond mere savagery. Vaelin confirms that King Janus executed the corrupt magistrate and nobles responsible for framing Urlian Geral, and that Urlian's widow Ilia and her son were exiled to the northern reaches. Vaelin met Ilia before her departure, seeking forgiveness, but she cursed him as a murderer. Finally, Vaelin admits he fulfilled the king's command, killing Lyndon Alhestian, a pivotal act that solidified his reputation and deepened his burden. The chapter shifts focus to Vernier's growing fascination with Vaelin's homeland, foreshadowing his intent to document its true history. In Chapter 1, Vaelin Al Sorna and his Sixth Order brothers patrol the Martiche forest alongside Lord Lyndon Alhestian's regiment, hunting Cumbraelan deniers. After retrieving the body of noble Martil Algelnik, killed by a Cumbraelan archer, they return to a fortified stockade. Vaelin reflects on his secret bargain with King Janus to ensure Lyndon's death, a burden that weighs heavily as he grows to respect the young lord. The regiment is poorly disciplined, and Alhestian seeks guidance. Vaelin proposes selecting and training 30 men into a capable strike force, planning to use them for a decisive raid. Under Mackerel's harsh leadership, the recruits endure brutal training, gaining discipline and respect for Alhestian, who leads by example. Vaelin, however, grows increasingly troubled by guilt and the inner voice condemning him as an assassin. As tensions build, the chapter sets the stage for a dangerous mission and Vaelin's moral struggle over his secret task. In Chapter 2, Vaelin and his brothers plan an assault on Black Arrow's Cumbraelan camp with Lord Lyndon Alhestian. Canis infiltrates the camp, and Mackerel leads a gully attack while Alhestian's force charges from the south. Vaelin, secretly ordered by King Janus to kill Alhestian, nearly carries out the assassination, but spares him, saving his life from an archer's shot instead. The battle is brutal, leaving over 60 Cumbraelans dead, but Alhestion is struck by a poisoned arrow. Vaelin hunts down and kills the archer, possibly Black Arrow, but finds himself transported to a mystical summer vision. There he meets Nurses Silnin, a Shorta woman who reveals Vaelin's true name, Beryl Shakur, Shadow of the Raven, and his gifted blood song. Returning to reality, Vaelin learns Alhestion is dying. Unable to save him, Vaelin mercifully ends his suffering, burdened by guilt, and realizes he has fulfilled the king's will after all. In Chapter 3, Vaelin and Mackril return from the Martish forest, delivering Black Arrow's letters to Aspect Arlen, who orders secrecy and promotes Mackril to Brother Commander. Vaelin notices Mackril's suspicion of him growing. That night, Vaelin drinks with his brothers and soldiers, learning one skilled player's name, Janril Norn, as they briefly celebrate survival. The next day, Vaelin and Aspect Arlen attend the King's Council. The letters implicate Fief Lord Mustor in aiding Deniers, prompting debate among ministers. Lord Sentas Muster, the Fief Lord's son, is arrested, and a summons is sent for his father, though the king expects an apology and tribute rather than war. Privately, the king reveals his political maneuvering, hinting at his plans for future power. He then knights Vaelin as Sword of the Realm, awarding him a Valyrian short sword, and assigns him command of the 35th Regiment, now under Order oversight. Vaelin feels bound by the king's manipulation. In Chapter 4, Vaelin begins building his regiment by selecting recruits from the royal dungeons, including Gallus the Climber, and commutes their sentences in exchange for 10 years of military service. He then delivers Lyndon Alhestion's sword to his brother Aloysius, who vows vengeance, while Princess Lerna subtly manipulates Vaelin, revealing her intelligence and hinting at schemes behind the Aspect massacre. Their conversation confirms both are complicit in Lyndon's death, deepening Vaelin's distrust of her. Back at the Order House, Sister Gilma joins the regiment as healer, quickly earning respect, and resolves a pox outbreak at a nearby camp of prostitutes, keeping morale steady. Vaelin's brothers train the new soldiers rigorously, slowly transforming them into a disciplined unit, with Norda leading archery practice and Barcus working in the smithy. Though progress is made, Vaelin worries about Norda's heavy drinking and the men's readiness for war, sensing conflict with Cumbrael looms and that their regiment's true test is approaching. In Chapter 5, Vaelin dreams of Nurses Silnin, who foretells he will become a legendary killer, a prophecy that haunts him. He is awakened by news that the Fief Lord of Cumbrael has been murdered by his son Hentes, sparking war. Aspect Arlen warns Vaelin to protect innocence and uphold faith's honor. The 35th Regiment marches north under Prince Malseus, joined by the disgraced Lord Muster, who reveals his fanatical brother hides in the High Keep, a fortress with a secret tunnel. After a brutal 10-day march, Vaelin leads a small strike team to infiltrate the keep. Gallus the Climber scales the walls, allowing the force to silently eliminate sentries and open the gates for the regiment. Vaelin advances alone into the Lord's chamber, finding Hentes Muster holding a chained, gagged woman hostage. To his shock, Vaelin recognizes her as Sister Sharon, his long-lost love, deepening the danger as the confrontation begins. In Chapter 6, Vaelin confronts Hentes Muster, who holds Sharon hostage, but the Bloodsong gives no warning, revealing Muster's turmoil and manipulation by an unknown voice. Mustor begins to surrender, but Barcus kills him with a thrown axe, enraging Vaelin. After the battle, Vaelin orders respectful burials for the Cumbraelan dead, hoping to ease tensions. Sharon recounts her capture, revealing Muster's doubts and madness, while Vaelin hides the truth of the Dark Voice. Aloysius recovers from his injuries, returning Vaelin's gifted sword, and morale grows among the men as they occupy the keep. Vaelin dreams of staying with Sharon, but knows it's impossible. Days later, Dentos returns alone, reporting that Norta attacked the Battle Lord, severing his hand and fleeing after killing several guards. Realizing Norta is now a fugitive, Vaelin relinquishes command to Canis and sets out alone to track him, guided by the Bloodsong, as Sharon and his brothers watch in sorrow. In Chapter 7, Vaelin travels to Cardoran, seeking Norta. Brother Commander Arton warns him of the dangers of Lonak lands and the cursed fallen city, Mars near Ulinsol, but Vaelin follows the Bloodsong's guidance and sets out alone. He navigates treacherous terrain, fends off attacks from a young Lonak warrior, and captures him, later meeting the boy's father, a Lonak leader. The father frees his son and reveals that the High Priestess ordered Vaelin's safe passage, though he warns the ruins bring only death. Continuing north, Vaelin reaches the oppressive ruins, feeling unease and blood-song warnings. He finds Norta, who seems concerned rather than hostile, but Vaelin is ambushed by a massive white-striped predator. Norta intervenes, and a young woman, Sella, appears, calming the beast and revealing a hidden group of people in the ruins. Severely injured and overwhelmed by pain, Vaelin feels shame for coming to kill Norta before passing out. In Chapter 8, Vaelin awakens healed by Weaver, a gifted man with extraordinary abilities, and is introduced to the hidden community living in the fallen city, including Norta and Sella. Sella reveals Vaelin's blood-song gift and explains that all in the city are gifted, seeking refuge from persecution. She shares the city's tragic history. Once a thriving center of art and magic, it was destroyed by a mysterious invading force. Sella gives Vaelin her mother's scarf, explaining his power can guide him to others like him. Later, Vaelin confronts Harlech, a former librarian, and learns that the Seventh Order still exists in secret with the Aspect's knowledge, shattering his faith in their honesty. Norta decides to leave with Sella and the Gifted for safety, vowing to never kill again, and gives Vaelin his sword and medallion to fake his death. Though tempted to stay, Vaelin chooses duty, planning to leave quietly at dawn. Part 4. Vernier's Account. In Vernier's account, Vaelin recounts claiming Norta was killed by a beast, presenting his medallion and sword to convince the king, though the Battle Lord distrusted him. Vernier's reflects on Lady Emran's bitterness after Vaelin killed her husband, the hope of the Empire, and her banishment for insulting the Emperor. Now Vaelin sails to the islands to duel the Meldonian shield, widely expected to die, a fate likely arranged to appease Emran and the Meldonians. Vaelin, calm and resigned, begins recounting the lead-up to the Alperan War. After years suppressing rebels, outlaws, and Lonak raiders, his regiment, the Wolf Runners, grew into a well-trained force of 1,200 elite soldiers, gaining a banner from the king. Volunteers filled its ranks, and stringent faith and strength tests replaced dungeon recruitment. Vaelin reveals that only a third of his men survived the war, and fewer than 1 in 10 Realm Guard returned. He recalls King Janus's stated motive for the invasion: bluestone, spices, and silk. In Chapter 1, Vaelin leads the Wolf Runners during the realm's invasion of the Alpiran Empire. Landing on the northern coast, his regiment of 1,200 infantry faces over 2,000 disciplined Alpiran cavalry. Using caltrops, archers, and tactical precision, they stall the charge, but begin to falter. Vaelin leads a daring cavalry flank attack with Frentis and his scouts, targeting the Alpiran commander's banner. In the chaos, he kills a prominent white armored officer, Iruin Maktar, sparking Alpiran outrage. One grief-stricken soldier commits suicide beside Maktar's body, enraging their ranks further. As the Alpirans close in, Renphalan knights led by Fief Lord Theros and his son Lord Darnell charge in, annihilating the remaining cavalry. After the battle, Vaelin thanks Theros but notes Darnell's hostility. Reflecting on the king's gift of a rare bluestone, he recalls the day it was given. When Princess Lyrna wept, Lord Darnell began to hate him and his blood song fell silent. In Chapter 2, Vaelin returns to the capital and attends the Summertide Fair, meeting Princess Lyrna. She discusses rumors linking the Aspect Massacre and the secretive Seventh Order, revealing her intellect and hinting at her distrust of their father, King Janus. She warns Vaelin to refuse his father's request. The king arrives, and Lyrna presents Lord Darnell with a ceremonial scarf, furthering his hostility toward Vaelin. Janus later takes Vaelin aside, gifting him a rare bluestone and revealing his plan to invade the Alpiran Empire to secure trade and wealth, admitting he will use lies to justify war. Vaelin refuses, but is threatened with harm to his half-sister and her mother. The king introduces Durla, a spy who implicates Vaelin's father in heretical activity. Realizing Janus intends to have her killed, Vaelin spares her, warning her to flee the realm. The chapter underscores Janus's ruthless manipulation, Vaelin's moral struggle, and the growing shadow of war. In Chapter 3, Vaelin and the Unified Realms army advance inland toward Untesh, with Vaelin scouting ahead alongside Frentis and his depleted scout troop. After killing the Emperor's heir, Silas and Maxtor Aluranin, Vaelin delivers his body to Alpiran guards, earning the name Hope Killer, and the vow of vengeance from Captain Nellison Nestor Hevrin. Recalling Aspect Arlen's command that he must return from this war, Vaelin reflects on the king's manipulation and the Battle Lord's simmering hatred. On the plains, the Alpirans march in force, but Vaelin's regiment taunts them with cries of Eruhin Maktar, provoking an undisciplined charge. Using superior positioning, massed Cumbraelan longbowmen, and disciplined Realm Guard formations, the Alpirans are trapped and their line collapses. Fief Lord Theros' knights crush their forces and thousands flee or die. Though victorious, Vaelin recognizes this was only a battle against northern garrisons, foreshadowing much greater challenges when the Emperor's main army advances. In Chapter 4, Vaelin arrives in Untesh, where the governor and his family committed suicide, leaving the city subdued but resentful. The Realm Guard's morale sours under Battlelord Al Hestian's strict discipline, earning him the nickname Blood Rose. At a war council, Hestian announces plans to divide forces. Vaelin will lead 8,000 men, including Count Marvin's troops and Cumbraelan archers, to capture and hold Linish while reinforcements secure Marbellis. Recognizing it as a trap, Vaelin accepts, seeing strategic purpose in drawing enemy focus. Solace warns him, but Vaelin remains resolute. At Linish, Vaelin uses Frentis' stealth to infiltrate and capture the city, securing cooperation from its governor and promising fair rule. Suddenly, Vaelin experiences a violent bloodsong surge, bleeding from his nose and ears. In a vision, another singer communicates telepathically, warning him of danger, advising caution, and inviting him to seek them out. The message is cryptic, but reveals Vaelin is not the only one with this gift. In Chapter 5, Vaelin recovers from his collapse under Sister Gilma's care, haunted by the voice of another bloodsong calling him. After inspecting Lanish's defenses, he feels the urgency to seek out the source of his vision. Guided by the bloodsong, Vaelin visits a stonemason's shop and meets Amlin, another singer, who shows him a marble block tied to the One Who Waits. Vaelin begins carving it under the song's guidance, but is interrupted by Barcus, who summons him to the governor's mansion. Sister Gilma confirms the governor's daughter has contracted the Red Hand Plague, prompting strict quarantines, lockdowns, and heightened security. Vaelin devises a plan to summon Sister Sharon, who may hold a cure, sending Frentis on a secret voyage aboard Carval Nuren's ship secured with bluestone payment. Vaelin warns Frentis of the danger and expresses regret over his burdens, but Frentis reaffirms his loyalty and faith. The chapter closes with Vaelin's conviction that faith guides their choices. In Chapter 6, fear grips Lineage as the Red Hand Plague spreads, killing the governor's maid and endangering his daughter. Sister Gilma enforces strict quarantines but soon succumbs to the illness, leaving Vaelin devastated. Tensions rise in the city, nobles attempt escapes, sailors riot and are crushed, and Vaelin burns 15 ships as punishment. He continues his visits to Amlin, who shares his past as a singer in the far west, explaining the song's true nature and its role as both guide and defense. Vaelin delays finishing the mysterious marble carving, but senses its importance. After 20 days, the Red Falcon returns, but instead of Sharon arriving freely, she is in chains, escorted by heavily armed brothers of the Fourth Order, led by Brother Iltis. Frentis is visibly ashamed, and the guards forbid Sharon from speaking. As tensions mount, Sharon grimly apologizes for being chained and pleads with Vaelin not to kill Iltis, foreshadowing conflict. In Chapter 7, Vaelin violently assaults Brother Iltis after Sharon arrives in chains, revealing his anger at her mistreatment. Frentis explains that Sharon was imprisoned for speaking against the war but was released under strict conditions. Vaelin burns the king's orders, freeing her. Sharon begins preparing a cure for the Red Hand, successfully saving the governor's daughter, and the city slowly reopens. Vaelin continues visiting Amlin, who advises him on the song's power, but soon after, Amlin's shop is burned down by a servant claiming the mason was a traitor. Vaelin suspects a deeper plot as he realizes the vital marble block has been destroyed, leaving him without answers. The Red Falcon departs, sailors are released, and order is restored, though fear lingers. Vaelin's attempt to focus his bloodsong only reveals confusion and fleeting visions, confirming that his one chance to understand the block's message has been lost, forcing him to seek a new path. In Chapter 8, Vaelin is woken at midnight to find Baron Banders arriving with news of Marbellis' brutal capture and an Alperan force of 30,000 marching on Linish. Ordered to hold the city, Vaelin devises a plan to strike first, targeting the enemy's siege engines at the Leyland Oasis. Leading a disguised scout troop with Bander's knights, Vaelin infiltrates the camp, sets the engines ablaze, and fights to cover the knights' retreat. Pursued by Alperin riders, Vaelin and Dentos race back to the city, but are caught in a massive sandstorm, during which Vaelin's blood song connects with a mysterious wolf's alien song. Vaelin resists its power, the storm clears, and he finds Dentos killed by an arrow. In shock, Vaelin carries Dentos' body back as archers annihilate their pursuers. Sharon's compassion breaks through his numbness, but Vaelin declares himself a murderer, overwhelmed by guilt as he rides through the gates with Dentos' body. In Chapter 9, Vaelin grieves Dentos' death, isolating himself for 2 days until Sharon visits, offering comfort and revealing her tragic past. Their shared vulnerability leads to intimacy, and they reaffirm their love, with Vaelin promising a future together after fulfilling his duty. Sharon recounts her arrest for opposing the war, her rescue by Princess Lerna, and a tense encounter with King Janus, deepening Vaelin's suspicions of the king's plans. Later, Captain Nellison Hevern arrives at the city gates seeking a duel, but Vaelin drugs and captures him instead, suspecting the Alpyran army's movements. He sends Frentis and the scout troop to investigate. Sharon warns Vaelin about Amlin's troubling fevered ramblings, including cryptic mentions of a living wolf and a deadly woman, which unsettle her. That night, the scout troop returns without Frentis, reporting that he rode ahead to warn Prince Malseus of an approaching Alpyran host near Untesh, prompting Vaelin to prepare for action. In Chapter 10, Vaelin confirms Untesh has fallen, and Prince Malseus and Frentis are presumed dead or captured. Marbellus is also lost, and morale in Linish drops as Vaelin relentlessly trains his men for the expected siege. Unexpectedly, a realm fleet arrives, carrying Lord Keldon Altelner and Alperin Grand Prosecutor Velsus, who delivers a treaty ordering realm forces to withdraw. Vaelin negotiates safe passage, disperses his men onto ships, and says farewell to comrades, including Barcus, Canis, and Banders. Brenantesh reveals a crucial secret before departing. Vaelin recalls Aspect Arlen's prophecy that war would unmask the one who waits, who seeks Vaelin's death, confirming the war was inevitable. Deciding to complete his mission, Vaelin drugs Sharon to send her to safety with Amlin, faking his own death to protect her. He relinquishes command of Linish to Governor Aruan, gives him his sword, and prepares to meet Velsus outside the walls, awaiting his fate. Part 5. In Vernier's account, Verniers finishes recording Vaelin Al Sorna's story, but senses omissions, particularly about Sharon and Amlin. The narrative shifts to Meldinian Isles, where Vaelin faces a duel with Atherin El Nestra, the Shield of the Isles, for the death of his family during the city's burning by Vaelin's father. Lady Emerin, Selisen's widow, seeks vengeance, and Vernier struggles with guilt over his own role in Selisen's death. In the amphitheater, Vaelin defeats the shield swiftly but spares his life, denouncing false notions of honor. Carval Nurin upholds the law, declaring Vaelin innocent, freeing him and Lady Emerin. At the dock, Vaelin apologizes to Emerin, but she vows eternal vengeance. Verniers warns Vaelin that her hatred will persist, but Vaelin is weary of killing and hopes never to draw his sword again. He departs on a Northern Reaches vessel hailed as a legend. Emerin watches in silent grief, swearing vengeance even beyond death. In Chapter 1, Vaelin camps near Linish, releasing his horse Spit, before being confronted by Barcus, who reveals himself as a possessed servant of the dark. The creature admits to orchestrating past events, including Cumbrel's war and murders, and reveals that the departed are tormented souls serving a dark master. Scratch, Vaelin's loyal hound, attacks, giving Vaelin a chance to fight back. After a brutal battle, Vaelin kills the creature wearing Barcus's body but loses Scratch to mortal wounds. He buries Barcus and Scratch separately, discards the cursed axe in the sea, and prepares for capture. For the first time, Vaelin fully controls his blood song, sensing visions, Lerna weeping as she prepares for his return, Sharon suppressing grief aboard her ship, and Frentis imprisoned but aware of Vaelin's call. The chapter ends with Grand Prosecutor Velsus approaching with guards to take Vaelin into Alperin custody, setting the stage for what's to come.